How has the pandemic affected America's trust in scientists? Well, 3M State of Science Index reveals widespread misinformation as a threat to scientific credibility. Now, today I have Dr. Jayshree Seth, corporate scientist and chief science advocate at 3M. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, James. I'm excited to talk to you about science and what America thinks about science.
I'm glad you're here today. So, what is the 3M State of Science Index?
It is research conducted by 3M to understand the public perception of science. What does the world feel about science? How does the public see its relevance in their daily lives? How do they view its importance for our future? And we have been conducting this global survey for 5 years now. We think it's important because science matters and what people think about science matters.
What findings from the survey resonated the most with you, and what are you seeing in the field?
Yeah, so as I look at the 2022 3M State of Science Index findings, I can share three things that jump out at me, and then I can talk about why they resonate. First, it's really good to see that trust in science is high in America and throughout the world. Second, something you already mentioned, Americans are very aware of widespread misinformation on social media and traditional media, and they are very concerned about it. And third, people agree we need more diversity in science, and Americans acknowledge that we need to do more for achieving equity in scientific fields. So, for sure, living through the pandemic has positively impacted the public perception. Trust is high. And that resonates because it's a real testament to what science has delivered in the pandemic and the promise people see science holds to drive impact in the future. And as a scientist, misinformation is really concerning to me because, as you mentioned, it can threaten scientific credibility. And even the public recognizes that it can have serious consequences. And last but not the least, it is indeed great to see that people recognize the importance of diversity in STEM and that Americans acknowledge that we need to do more in that regard. And this resonates with me on many levels because we do need a more diverse scientific community.
We definitely do. Now, what tools are available to help people detect and stop the spread of misinformation?
Yes, very important point. I think as public is recognizing something needs to be done, scientists are very concerned and research around this field is coalescing and people are recognizing that this is going to be about raising scientific literacy and not just scientific literacy for youth and not just youth, for adults as well, scientific literacy, media literacy, and digital literacy. And big part of this is how do you detect misinformation? So I actually like the SIFT technique developed by digital literacy expert Michael Caulfield, and it's a great way for evaluating sources. SIFT stands for stop, investigate the claim, find better coverage, and trace back to the original context. And that way you can tell whether it's credible information or misinformation. And I like to add the question, why do you want to share right when you are starting to sift through the information? And I believe that can help stop the spread because that question pulls in reflection, which I think is important and can address the issue in a swift manner. Stop. Why do you want to share? And that question prompts you to defer the decision to share instantly. And then you can sift and detect whether it's misinformation. And if it is, that moment of reflection should deter from sharing it.
I hear everything that you're saying, but I have coffee in the morning with a very diverse group of people, and you still have those individuals that listen to certain news networks that in other areas of social media where all this misinformation is and still say, hey, that's what I believe in. So, what are the top barriers to a strong STEM education and what can we do to address them?
Yes, very nicely linked with the idea of raising that scientific literacy and STEM awareness. And our data shows that top three barriers are access, affordability, and the bias that is coming from bias that is posing a barrier. And addressing each one of that, as you can imagine, is complex, and it requires, stakeholders across the spectrum working together. So at 3M, we're using a multifaceted approach. We are trying to address the issues of accessibility, affordability, and also drive engagement and encouragement through many, many programs, and inspire people to have a more positive world through science. Very specifically, I want to talk about something we're doing to inspire girls, because it's so important that they feel like science is something they can do and they want to be in. And one of the things we did last year was a docuseries called Not the Science Type. And in this docuseries, we highlight diverse role models who have blazed trails in STEM. And we want to show that you can do this. Doesn't matter what your gender, your race, or ethnicity is. Science needs you to be as diverse as you are, and science will be better off for that diversity. So we want to catalyze this conversation around challenging the very constructs they may have about science, dismantling the archetypes, and shattering the stereotypes of who enters, who persists, and who excels in STEM.
Besides, where else can we go to learn more about this? And behind that, where can we see this award-winning documentary, Not the Science Type?
Yes, please visit 3m.com/science index, and you can find all the results from all the years there. And we also have the tips for detecting and stopping the spread of misinformation there. And while you are there, you can watch our docuseries highlighting the 4 diverse scientists, not the science type. And I really encourage everybody to understand that science is a platform that helps you improve lives and make the world a better place.